for international awards. And then you've also been on the jury panel for PAS Awards and now Effie. So do you think we've been able to do a good job that way? Or meeting the credibility criteria, or in terms of innovation and all that stuff? Are we on the right track?
I think 100% on the right track. I think in terms of jury, one thing I would say is that in order to make the work even better and to make the award even harder to win, which is always a good thing, I think we do need to have more of an international jury. And I'll tell you why that's important, because I think when you're within a certain sphere, within the same country, you tend to look at work a little differently than somebody who's coming into it new, who looks at it from a new perspective or a new lens. We just had Dubai Links here. They just announced a shortlist a couple of weeks ago, and they do that every year, of course. It's a regional show. Not a single person on that jury is from the region. They still award stuff that's regional, and that's why it becomes a very, very tough award to win, because your standard suddenly goes very high internationally. I think a good mix is healthy, of course, to get that local perspective and also to get that, that discerning factor that only pushes the best. But I think we're definitely in the right direction. I think the criteria that are given to the jury members are top notch. The idea that you have to look for effectiveness is key. One thing I tell effectiveness juries is that every entry into the FEs is going to be an effective entry. People are not going to enter a piece of work that hasn't performed well. What makes it different from other entries that are effective as well is the pathway to that effectiveness. How original was that? How creative was it? How interesting was it? How was it crafted? That's what makes one entry stand out. And I think the jury has gotten to a point where they've started to understand that and award it accordingly.
So I think having international jury members is very important. And I think there needs to be a change in the mindset of people here, because a lot of people question that, if you have international jurors, they may not understand the local dynamics or nuances of our country. But that's not the case. If you go internationally, you compete internationally, there are jurors from all over the world. They may not understand, they may understand, but that's how you craft a case effectively. So it has to be written very well. I think one criticism that I hear, and I'm sure everyone comes across, is the number of jurors in our award program. There's a whole math behind it. There is a math. There's a whole math and science behind it. Why we have this specific number. So obviously it depends on the number of entries you receive. Yeah. So what we do is that
for example, we had
357 entries this year.
And we had like 100 plus jurors this year.
Yeah, and you all have seen the form. It's quite a long form, right? So per day, we cannot give more than an X number of entry forms to review to a jury panel.
Agreed.
Right? So then we have to have a more number of groups if there are more entries. Now within a group, you have to have a certain composition. You have to have marketeers, you have to have strategists, creative, academia, people from academia and research. So it's a whole composition. So you have to have at least 8 to 10 people, in fact 10 to 12 people for that matter, in one on one panel. So if you have 10, say for example, in one panel, and if you have 8 groups, so you straight need to have 80 people. Now why we need those 10 people is because a lot of times, mainly from the agency people, they're recusing because they cannot judge their entry or the category they work in. So at any given point in time, at least 2 or 3 people are recusing from that group. So you're effectively left with just 7 jurors. And now that's our benchmark. For every case, we should have a minimum of 7 scores. That also minimize the biases that we have. Obviously we're all humans. So there's a whole math to it, that how many jury members we require or we need. So Ali, coming back to you. So do you see the same kind of numbers internationally?
No, I think if I look at APAC FEs, I think they also have a very, very large roster of juries. Something like Cannes Lions goes into the several hundreds, in fact, because they have a huge number of categories, of course. I think the number is all right. Obviously, as you said, depending on the entries as well. I think perhaps the perception is in the way we announce the jury members, because we do it over a course of a few days, so it just seems long and drawn out. Maybe a shift could be to just announce a large number of them in one go, and then just be done with it. I think that's that would be the maybe a way around it. But as far as numbers go, I think other award shows do have an equal amount of jury members, because there are so many categories, and you can't keep giving a large number of categories to a single jury person. Otherwise, it's a burnout.
True.